Member for Cowichan Valley.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the Minister for his response and thank him for his ongoing and very proactive communication with our caucus. I have been so deeply appreciative of the information that he's provided and being able to put questions to him that have come to me when he connects with us. I again, just really want to commend and thank the Minister and the government for their work over this time. There's another vulnerable population that will be deeply impacted by the situation that we're all in, and as we ask people to stay home and social distance and quarantine, this does actually create conditions for increased domestic violence. Isolation due to fear of contracting or spreading the virus has distanced victims of abuse from their support networks, and the stress on our healthcare system has made it even less likely for those victims to seek out and receive treatment for their injuries. Current provincial services for victims of violence like Victim Link BC or Kids Help Phone are largely offered over the phone. However, when their abuser is also at home during quarantine, many victims will not feel safe to reach out for help this way. Other jurisdictions are addressing this concern by exploring options to expand digital media services. My question, Honourable Speaker, is through you to the Premier. During this state of emergency, how can we better support victims of violence who are isolated with their abusers at home?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. We were talking about vulnerability in the previous question with the Health Minister, and this is vulnerability as well. It's another group that certainly is facing vulnerability. We all know that violence is never acceptable and safety is a top priority, but we also know, as the member has pointed out so well, that those who are living with violence may not have a safe option. I had a discussion last week with a service provider who I think, and it stuck with me, said, what do you do when home isn't a safe place when you're in this position and when you're looking at self-isolation? So we are working with BC Housing to look at alternative plans, so whether it's hotels or other options for people who are fleeing violence or need to self-isolate and are in a situation where they can't be at home. We will work with the service providers in communities because, again, often it's the front line that provides that support, and the member will know as part of the package today, we confirm that not-for-profits that contract with government will continue to get those services even if they're having to change in their distribution of those services and how they provide them. That's going to be in place as well. The federal government has allocated new funding to support sexual assault centres and women's shelters, so we're talking with the federal government to look at how we can ensure that some of that funding is allocated to our province and can go directly to these kinds of supports. And then just the last piece I'd mention is the $1.7 billion that we put aside for critical services. That's another piece, again, when we work with BC Housing, when we work with the vulnerable populations groups, that we will be looking to how we allocate that to ensure that the safety is there for people when home isn't a safe place.